This is going to be an interesting one. I have no idea how we're going to make this into a video or if we even will, but there's a thing I think a lot about that's changed my approach to building things entirely. I call this change energy. I think every person exists on a spectrum of how much change they like to deal with. So at the top, we'll say this is 10, and at the bottom, 0. And this is amount of change that you experience. This can be things like your living environment changes, or the food you're eating changes, or the work you're doing changes. Humans need some level of stability in their lives where they feel like they're going insane. For every given person, the range they're comfortable with varies. So for me, when it comes to things like where I live and my general navigating the world stuff, I tend to have very low thresholds for change energy. I don't enjoy traveling that much. I get quite burnt out quickly if I'm traveling a lot. Things like moving stress me out a ton. When I have to change the place I live and build my life into a new spot, that stresses me out a bunch. For some people, though, that's really exciting. The idea of everything changing around you, having a new living space, is super exciting. And they actually strive to have more change in something like their livelihoods. Some things are inherently boring, though, like the work you do. I'll use myself as an example here. This is a really hard thing to diagram. I'm going to do my best here. And if people have suggestions on how to diagram this better in the future, that would be really cool. Let's say this is the range that I like to exist in for change in my work. I like to have things not get stale, but also not change constantly. If every day I'm working on different things, that would stress me out. But if my experience working in a code base is that everything is really monotonous and I just kind of live at this line here, but my comfort zone is in this range, that sucks. And what I'm going to be looking for, if I'm living there, but my preferred zone is up here, I'll draw a line that's how my day-to-day feels. If I'm living on this line, but I see an opportunity that's hey, we need somebody to try out this new thing, I might spike up and get to experiment a whole bunch and try some new things for a little bit. And maybe it'll even be too much and I'll be oh, too much shit's changing. I want to go back to where I'm a little more comfortable. And then we can chill here where we're trying out new things, but then I have to go grind on an old code base for a while and it's miserable. And then afterwards I can go back to working here. I think this represents the experience that a lot of devs have where the code bases they're working on are boring and miserable. This line is old Rails code. If this is the line you're stuck living on, for most people, especially engineers, we're generally more curious. The average engineer is going to have bad feelings and vibes if they're currently stuck down here, but they want to be in a range like this. But let's flip this a little bit. Let's say you're an engineer that doesn't like when things change and you want it to be a little more stable. And now if we redraw this line, let's say that you're using React. You're a modern React dev and you've been really happy with class components for a while now. So you're living maybe even down here for a bit. You're happy with things. And then hooks happen. And now you're here for a bit. And you're yeah, this is cool, but this is a little near my threshold for how much change I want to deal with. And then server components happen. And now you're what the fuck? I don't like this. I wanted this to be stable and simple and everything's constantly changing around me. And maybe you drop down to the old Rails code again. So if I move these like this, maybe you started with a normal React code base, building all these things yourself, dealing with Webpack and shit, and you're right in the middle of the amount of change you're willing to tolerate. Then hooks push you near your edge, then server components push you over, and then you collapse down to the simplest thing that you know won't change because you don't want things to change that much. But when people get pushed above or below their change thresholds, the minimums or maximums they want to operate within, that's when things start to fall apart. I want to tell a real personal story that is how I discovered this about myself in the industries that I work in. This one isn't about code. This one's going to be about creator stuff. Something I learned quickly as a creator is that it's very different from being a developer. If the line for how average code bases work for successful companies is really low on the change threshold, where less change is how more companies trend towards, being a successful creator is the opposite. You actually have to change as regularly as you can. The content you produce has to be varied a ton. The more unique things you can cover and the more unique ways you can cover them and package them and get them out, the more successful you'll be. The most successful channels are the ones that change the way they're doing things and push themselves to do more unique things constantly. If you look at my channel, you'll see, obviously I post a lot about React, but I go weeks at a time where I only post videos about other things. Every day I post a video about something different that was new and exciting to me. The thing that's exciting about being a content creator is that you're rewarded for that. The more time you can spend in this top range, the better. But that means that if my willingness to deal with this type of change is there, I'm constantly risking burnout because I am right at the threshold for how much change I can deal with. So if I'm living on this line, and then let's say there's a new camera that I want to try or a new creator tool that I'm being encouraged to look at, that might be the thing that pushes me over my threshold. And if I'm already here, if I'm already maxed out, then I want everything that isn't literally a video I'm currently working on to be as close to the bottom as possible because I'm already maxed out. I don't want things like the tools I use to manage my videos or for the things that I'm using to keep track of my assets or for the cameras that I'm using and all of these things. I specifically want everything that isn't a topic in a video to stay as boring as possible. So all of my energy for this change can be focused in on the things that I'm creating for the channel. If I have a finite amount of this change energy where I can only deal with so much change in a given day before I'm overwhelmed, I try to pour as much of that into the channel as possible and then keep everything else as boring as possible. The way I learned this was a little strange. There's a service called Frame.io. For those who aren't familiar, Frame is a way to do video reviews, almost like a code review, where my editor can post a video up for review. I and my team can go through it, leave comments on specific pixels at specific timestamps saying, hey, this isn't quite right. Hey, the color's off here. Hey, can you trim this? And those comments can come up in their video editor so they can go through and make those changes. I knew about this tool for so goddamn long. One of the first investors we had at Ping, which is my company, for those who don't know, we build tools for streamers. Now we're building dev tools. We'll get to why in a minute. I knew a lot about the creator tool space. I was deep in the creator world after working at Twitch and building this. Emery, the founder of Frame, reached out to be a potential investor. And we chatted a bunch. He eventually invested. We got decently close. And I intimately knew Frame. Even before we started chatting, I knew a lot about Frame.io. It was obvious this was a very useful tool that would be a huge improvement on my workflow. It took me over a year to start using it. I spent more time building my own versions of things Frame did than I would have had to spend adopting it and just using it. And it's not like it's super expensive or anything either. Its pricing is actually quite reasonable. $15 a month per user for 2 terabytes of storage. And it's a great service. I don't hesitate to pay this money. It's absolutely worth what we're paying for it. But I bring this up because I knew it was the right solution. I knew it would fundamentally improve our workflows, but I didn't adopt it. And I sat there and thought a long time about it because when I did adopt it over a year later, I realized how useful it was and how much it would improve our workflow. So I sat and thought, why did I not adopt this? I try new dev tools all the time. Why am I not trying new creator tools? I've since realized the answer. It's quite simple once you realize it. If this is my experience as a creator where I'm living on this blue line, so I'm constantly maxed out on the amount of change I'm willing to deal with in a given day, then additional change is super stressful because it's going to push me over my threshold. But if we go back to the developer world, if I'm constantly below my threshold, I am desperately looking for new things to try. The average developer isn't hitting their thresholds for things changing in many code bases. Like many companies have such a boring stack. The average engineer at work kind of wants to look for new things and look for new tools and solutions and technologies. And those people are disproportionately likely to be the viewers of this channel. The people who are here watching, I know at least half of you are subscribed, the other half should consider it. All of y'all are here because you want to learn about these new things some amount. You're at the very least curious about them. And that is awesome. It often also means that you're not getting that threshold met at work. Like when I was at Twitch, I found a lot of opportunities to explore with and try new things. I spent a lot of time reading Twitter and blogs still, but I wasn't as much a part of the conversation. When I left Twitch, I wasn't hitting my thresholds. So I started talking about these things more. I started trying new technologies more. I got deeper so I could be fulfilled. I needed my creative and change energy internally to feel satisfied, and it didn't. And then when I started creating content, I was constantly hitting that maximum. I was going through so much change every day, trying out new things, talking about them, trying new styles of content, trying new branding, thumbnails, all of this. I was maxing out the amount of change I could deal with every day. And the thought of adding more on top was stressful. And what I realized is this is a fundamental difference between the engineering industry and the creator industry. Good creators are constantly trying new things with their content, so they're unwilling to try new things anywhere else. The average developer is stuck in a code base that they're probably some amount tired of, and they want to try new things. And the best of those developers and the best of those creators have very different mindsets, where the best creators put so much energy into their content changing that they don't let anything else change. And the best developers are stuck on a code base that's really boring, so they're constantly exploring new solutions externally. This obviously benefits me greatly because I have an audience of those excited developers looking for new things, and I've made a very valuable channel and community as a result. But it also hurt us as a creator tools company because the creators that were looking into and trying new tools were not the good ones. And that really hurt to realize. The best creators aren't looking for new tools and solutions. They're too busy making their content the new thing. The people who are looking for new tools and solutions in the creator space are often the ones who don't know why their stuff isn't working, and they're looking for any solution they can possibly buy to fix it. They're not buying subscriptions to things like vidIQ because they're happy with how their channel's performing and they want to get a little more insight. They're buying these subscriptions because they don't understand what's going on and they desperately want to understand, because they're not putting that energy into making more compelling content. They're putting it into figuring out why their content isn't working. In the dev world, especially if you're an employed dev, you're probably good enough at understanding how these things work. So the thresholds that you're hitting are going to be very different. And that's what I'm seeing is most great developers are looking for more change. Most great creators are looking for less change. And that realization is why we pushed so hard into the developer tool space, because I want to sell to the best people in the spaces that we're working in. I want the people who inspire me to benefit from the things that I'm creating. And with Ping, it was really hard to do that. Obviously, we have awesome people using Ping. Like we have Linus Tech, Iron Mouse, Elgato, most of VShojo, great groups like the Majority Report, political stuff too. Like the key here though, is that all of these people, it wasn't the creator that chose. It wasn't like Linus reached out like, yo, we're going to use Ping. It was their producer reached out. With Iron Mouse, it wasn't like she heard that Ping was this really cool thing and was going to adopt it. It was the CEO of the company she works for, Gunrun, realizing it. With Elgato, it was their production team that we hung out with at a couple events, realizing Ping would be a good solution for them, and then they decided to adopt it. All of these examples are individuals whose jobs aren't just making compelling videos themselves, but are working on the production pipeline, which, when you think about it, it's a lot more like engineering. But that's not the average person in content creation. Most of the biggest creators run a very tight ship where they're in control of a lot of what's going on still. Could you convince my editor FaZe to try a new editing tool that might make his job easier? Sure. Could you convince me to try it? Almost certainly not. Could you convince a random engineer on my team to try a new tool or technology? Almost certainly yes. Could you convince me as well? Also, almost certainly yes. That's the difference, is the people on top and the people working with them in the developer space are all much more willing to try new things than in the creator space. And the only in that we found for creators was finding the producers who were bored because all of the cool, exciting stuff was being done by the people they were filming, not by themselves. That's why we're leaving the creator space. We're not killing our products. We're not going to deprecate the stuff that already exists. We still use all of these things all the time. I still use Ping for all my collabs. But we're focusing on dev tools now, like Upload Thing, both because we better understand the problems that developers have, because we had so many of them building with these tools and technologies, but also because we need to feel this mutual excitement. We need to be excited about what we're building, and the people that we're showing it to need to be excited as well. And we didn't feel that way with the creator tools, because the most excited people in the creator tool space weren't the best creators, but the most excited people in the tooling space for devs are the best devs. The oh shit moment for me was right after we dropped Upload Thing, seeing people like Josh Tried Code posting videos immediately, reverse engineering it, figuring out how it worked and giving his thoughts on it. We excited some of the best devs and best creators in the dev space by building something like this. And that was a huge change for us because we weren't used to that. In the creator space, it was very different. And that's why I think so much about this change energy thing, because we all need to hit our minimums, but we're all terrified of going over our maximums. In the experience in different industries and different spaces, be it creator, engineer, or any of the other fields that I know nothing about, the amount that you hit these thresholds varies a lot. And I think it's a good way of thinking about how people behave in these spaces and how people adopt these solutions as well. I have no idea how we're going to turn this into a video. I am so sorry, FaZe, but I trust you to do something with this, and Gabriel to tell me where to put it. That's all I have to say. Peace.